Stoneworks is an extremely complex community full of thousands of people and hundreds of nations, each with their own unique history and lore. It's honestly very confusing and way too much for a single person to understand. Therefore, today, I'm going to try to explain at least some of that to you guys, and the first thing of that is going to be the war between Tiberia and Saria, which is still going on right now. Just a little disclaimer, first off, I'm not an expert. I have not even been playing on this server for 6 months, but I did do a lot of research to make sure I'm giving you guys accurate, factual information that you can use. So now I have to give you a little geography lesson too, because some of this stuff is a little weird. First off, this part of the Tiberium looks a lot like Wisconsin. Does anyone else see this, or is it just me? Because it looks like a lot like Wisconsin. You even see the little part of Michigan over there. It just shocks me. And here, the real geography lesson is that this area in white is Tiberia, the continent, while these areas are the Tiberian Commonwealth, which is a nation. This is an important distinction that will become important later on. Now that I've mentioned the Tiberium, I'm going to show you the other nation in this conflict, which is Syria. Syria, as you can see, is kind of geographically split into two separate parts. The northern part is where this war is being fought over, because Syria maintains that this is their land, this is firmly their land because their ancestors were some of the first people to settle there, while Tiberia claims the exact opposite. Their people were some of the first people there, and it's a security risk for them to have Syria there. What's really interesting to me about this conflict is that the Tiberium has their own national identity, where they claim that Syria are being oppressors, and that they're being colonialists and trying to take colonies in these areas. And as we know from real life, claims of nationalism and colonialism always end up leading to peace and prosperity for all. Since this is a Minecraft server, and there's not a lot of ways I can verify the information I get, I'm going to give you both sides of this story so you can understand it. In addition to preserving it for posterity and just making sure you can decide on your own, this is just going to be the best way for me to make sure I'm not leaving anything out. So first off, the perspective of Saria. So, little history lesson here. Saria is a religious union between the nations of Gerasa and Carinthia. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. I speak English, this is very hard for me. Okay, little side note here. The wiki is amazing, and sometimes on the left you guys make amazing stuff. Like the flag of Saria makes so much sense. You can clearly see that it's a union between Carinthia and Gerasa. But on the right, as an English speaker, I have trouble pronouncing that word. And I just cannot understand what you're doing with that. And this isn't an isolated quote, as you can see in the screenshot. There is like a bajillion words that I have no clue how to pronounce. Please, someone make a pronunciation guide to all this stuff. So, way back when, Gerasa had made claims to a lot of this land, along with Carinthia, and so when Gerasa became part of Saria, the land claims also went to Saria. It's that simple, that straightforward, that's how they view it. Okay? While the other nations disagreed with this, they completely believed that this was their land, and thus fighting to protect it was completely justified to them. Okay, now on to the perspective of the Tiberian Commonwealth. So the citizens of these nations settled much of the continent, building their homes and establishing their nations and culture. And then came Gerasa, who invaded, from their point of view, invaded their lands in safety, claiming the land as their own, in a pattern of behavior which continues today under the nation of Saria. The people of Tiberia view Saria as unwelcome invaders who have taken over great swaths of land on the continent, posing a threat to stability and practicing a form of aggressive expansion which they view as colonialism. The nations of the Tiberian Commonwealth feel threatened by this, and they thus want to force Saria off the continent and form one great Tiberian nation. This movement to unite the whole continent of Tiberia under the Tiberian Commonwealth is called Pan-Tiberianism. Back to Saria's aggressive dialogue. One of the big complaints Tiberia has had towards Saria is that they've been making some very aggressive, very mean statements. For example, they called some people who lived in Jonkbergia squatters, which some of them aren't, but I can see that from the point of view of Saria. It makes sense given their other claims about the land. In addition to that, they've made some statements that could be interpreted as insults, including one very notable one where an upper official in the Syrian government referred to some people in the Empire of Ishtar as pedophiles. And excluding whether or not this is true, I don't think this was the right way to address that matter.
But
Okay,
whether or
just
not
as a
this
side
actually
note,
should be
that
something
person
we should be
was
fighting
removed from
wars
the
over
Discord
is
immediately,
something for you
which
to
is
decide.
something good. That's something Saria definitely should get bonus points for, because that is what you should do when you're seeing something like that. But again, this still happened. Someone from their nation is insulting people of other nations, someone in a high office. Okay, they did remove them, but it still happened.
Okay, next thing, war aims. This is what's going to come out of this conflict. If Saria wins, they will likely hold on to their land and force Tiberia to accept that that territory is a core part of Saria. The Tiberian Commonwealth, meanwhile, they want the opposite. They want to, again, take that land under the pan-Tiberianism movement and put it into their own Tiberian Commonwealth so that they can have that great nation that controls all of Tiberia. The future. So at the time of this video, the fight is ongoing. I believe the Tiberium has taken a slight advantage in the fighting. My real questions for the war are, is the Tiberium as a coalition, is it able to come together and effectively fight Saria as one great nation? Or will just people slack off? Will the other nations say, oh, this isn't over in my area, I'm not going to fight? That's something we need to focus on. Saria, meanwhile, they have to decide. Do they really want to fight this war over these lands? Are these lands valuable enough to them? Or is it just a matter of right versus wrong? Are they going to fight it just because it's right or wrong? Or do they think these lands are so valuable they need to fight for them? Okay? And then we also have to consider what's going to happen either way to the people who live in these lands after this conflict finishes. If, say, Saria is forced off the continent, where are these people going to go? Are they Tiberian or are they Sarian? They live in Tiberia. Will they stay in their homes or will they go back to Saria? And more importantly, will the Tiberium force them out? Those are just some questions we need to think about for the future.
Such a wonderful day. I guess I'll just look at the Reddit for Stoneworks. Oh, look at this. Oh, such an interesting thing, so important to my video. Let's see what it's all about. Oh yeah, I like that poster, looks very good. Wait a second. What is that? So just as I finished this video, Saria came out with an announcement that they had officially ended the war and that they were going to leave from the war and join the nation of Solj. A few things to note here. The war isn't quite over yet. Their ally Kori is still in this fight and they're going to continue to fight the Tiberium. In addition, while Saria did cede some land to the Tiberium, it's not all the land the Tiberium asked for, and it's not going to resolve the conflict. There's still competing claims over a lot of land on that continent. And so we're going to see at least a Cold War going on right now. We might even see another war come out of this, a war between Solj and Tiberium, with the remnants of Saria and some of those other nations who were fighting with Saria joining up and trying to win back some of the things they lost in this war. And that's it. That's the end of the video. That's everything I think you need to know. Again, I'm not an expert on this. If you have your own opinions, please put that here or on Reddit, because this is actually the second version. I got a really insightful comment from someone on Reddit, and that made me rethink the process. It made me redo the video. I am in school, so it might take me a while to get to your insights, but I think they're really important, and I would love to focus on them. Here's to hoping that this war ends peacefully, and that we don't end up having a huge part 2. Goodbye for now, and thanks for watching.